I will call the meeting of the Local Agency Formation Commission to order. And could we have a roll call, please?
Yeah. Commissioner Salas,
Alice here.
Commissioner Desmond,
Here.
Commissioner Jacob,
Here.
Commissioner Kersey,
Here.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Here.
Commissioner Willis,
Here.
Commissioner Vanderlyn,
Present.
Commissioner Wells,
Here.
alternate Commissioner McNamara,
Here.
alternate Commissioner Cox is absent. Alternate Commissioner Kate is absent. Alternate Commissioner Long,
Here.
alternate Commissioner Mathis,
Here. Good morning, Harry.
Good morning, Andy.
per the governor's order, we have a virtual quorum.
Thank you. Joe, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Yes. Gotta figure this out. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the
United
United
States of
America
America,
and to the republic,
for
which
which it stands,
stands
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and
justice for all.
Thank you very much. Keen, review the agenda. Any changes?
Thank you, Chair. So no changes to the agenda as posted by staff early last week. I do want to just take the opportunity, though, just to, again, note that we are live streaming the meeting on our YouTube page with a link provided at the LAFCA homepage. And as such, it does provide the viewing public the opportunity to participate in today's meeting, either through questions or comments. Instructions on how to do so for the public is available on the face sheet of our agenda. And Chair, just because there's a 3 to 5 second delay, as I understand it on the YouTube page, we will pace ourselves a bit as we go through the items that require some public comment. So with that said, we are good to go, Chair.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, public comments. Anyone that wishes to address the commission on anything other than what's on the agenda?
Tammy, did we have any registered persons for public comment?
No registered speaker comments received.
Okay, and Erica, any emails coming in?
Let's see. No live email comments.
We're good to go, Chair.
Thank you. Next is the consent agenda. Commissioners, anyone want to pull an item off the consent agenda?
Move to approve. Desmond.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. There's a motion, a second to approve the consent agenda. That's item 5, A, B, C, D, E. We'll have a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Vanderlyn,
Yes.
Commissioner Jacob,
Yes.
Commissioner Kersey,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
yes.
Commissioner Willis,
Aye.
Commissioner Salas,
Aye.
Commissioner Wells,
Yes.
Commissioner Desmond,
Aye.
8 in favor. The motion passes.
Thank you. Item 6A, Keen.
Thank you, Chair. So item 6A, and as the Chair and others can certainly attest to, is a rather significant capstone proposal before the Commission that has been years, if not at this point, decades in the making. A proposal that seeks the Commission's approval today, among other things, to go forward and form a brand new dependent fire protection district that would cover most of the unincorporated area of San Diego County. And in doing so, Commission would serve as a new home for the County Fire Authority. And should the Commission proceed with an approval, and we're going to get into the details certainly in a bit, it would mark this rather seminal evolution of the County Fire Authority over its relatively brief life. And under the LAFCO Lenses Commission, you would be transitioning this agency from being a organizer and funder of fire services to an organizer, funder, and deliverer of fire services. And again, that last part, deliverer of fire services, is a big deal in LAFCO law. It's such a big deal that we're going to actually break up our staff presentation among two staff members. First, we're going to hear from Robert Berry, our Chief Policy Analyst, who will walk us through the proposal in terms of the details and the analysis from your staff. And then I'm going to ask our relatively new fire services consultant, Ed Sprague, to drill down on a few key points in terms of context, past, present, and future. So with that, I'm going to hand this item off to Robert, and we'll go from there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, commissioners. It's been a long time coming to get to this point in the fire regionalization in San Diego County. Almost 17 years of work has gone into what's being proposed today, which is the formation of a standalone San Diego County Fire Protection District that would assume the responsibilities of fire protection and emergency medical services for the San Diego County Fire Authority, which is currently a subzone of County Service Area 135. So we have some maps to start the discussion to give you a better perspective on the area that we're talking about. And then once I describe the proposal, I'll hand it off to Ed Sprague, who will provide some background on the process and where we've come from over the last 17 years. So the map you're seeing here in yellow is San Diego County. The dotted line around the edges there is the sphere of influence for what's called County Service Area 135. That service area is represented in the yellow, and it covers all of the unincorporated territory of San Diego County, plus 10 cities. Now, this CSA was established in 1994 as a regional communication system for emergency services, primarily in the unincorporated area, but also with contract cities that participate in the communication system, including the ones listed: Carlsbad, Del Mar, Encinitas, Imperial Beach, Lemon Grove, Poway, San Marcos, Solana Beach, and Vista were the original cities at the formation, and then Santee annexed to the CSA in 1996. This CSA, again, is a county-wide CSA in terms of its sphere of influence, meaning that it includes all the territory of the county, which creates eligibility for potential inclusion. All of the cities that are not currently partners of CSA 135 have their own emergency communication systems that partner alongside CSA 135 to provide regional communications. This CSA is administered through the the County Sheriff's Department, and served as the vehicle for the activation of fire services that happen subsequently. Can you go to the next slide, please? So in 2008, and Ed is going to provide some background on the fire history in the county, so I won't get into that too much in detail. This map shows in the red footprint the area that was activated in 2008 by LAFCO. Basically, a CSA has a laundry list of available powers to it. Any power that's not being currently provided by the CSA, which is regional communications, is considered a latent power where the commission has to activate it upon request of the legislative body, in this case, the Board of Supervisors. So in 2008, the latent powers were requested to be activated for fire protection and emergency medical services within the red footprint. That was activated as a subzone of CSA 135. One of the reasons for this was the fact that CSA 135 covered the entirety of the unincorporated area, and it was available as a vehicle to create the footprint for this activated fire protection and EMS service. This was a total of about 942,000 acres that was activated at that time in 2008. And that is what was or is known as the San Diego County Fire Authority, as opposed to the subzone of CSA 135. What was created at that time was a coterminous sphere of influence, meaning that the boundary of the sphere was the same as the service area that was activated. There was no additional territory included. This
Salute.
creates a situation where if there's going to be an expansion, it requires a concurrent sphere of influence expansion and approval by the commission. So moving forward, could you go to the next slide, please? So here we are in 2020. So since 2008 with the activation, the county has embarked its hybrid plan, which was the regionalization of unincorporated services. This entailed the sequential dissolution of 5 existing volunteer fire groups, county service areas, 3 fire protection districts, including Rural Fire, Julian Fire, and Pine Valley Fire, and then 3 municipal water districts that had activated fire services that were divested to the fire authority. So in total from 2008, 679,000 acres were included, which shows the footprint today in the red area. The sphere again is coterminous apart from an area in the Palma Valley area, which again was addressed through the MSR. So what we have before us today, can you go to the next slide, too? The San Diego County Board of Supervisors has provided a resolution of application requesting LAFCO approval for formation of the San Diego County Fire Protection District within the existing footprint of the activated CSA 135 fire protection area, which is known as the San Diego County Fire Authority. Well, this would be established with a coterminous sphere of influence. And again, this requires any annexation of the fire protection district subsequent to formation to include a sphere action and approval by the commission with written determinations, in addition to the review of the proposal for its own merits. The footprint of the fire protection district totals 1.6 million acres. It again is the same footprint as the existing fire service area that's contracted with CAL FIRE for operations service through the County of San Diego Fire Authority. In terms of the application itself, we received a plan for services that identifies a 5-year budget for the fire protection district moving forward. This includes a total of $52.6 million in expenditures and revenues over a 5-year period. The breakdown on revenues that we were given in the plan for services included $1.6 million in existing property taxes that are currently allocated to the fire authority that would transfer to the fire protection district as the successor agency to those services. Now, the $52.6 million budget includes the $1.6 million in property taxes, plus transfers of fund balances and general fund funds to finance the ongoing operational costs. This involves a $29.7 million general purpose allocation, as well as a $15.2 million use of fund balance transfer that would fully fund these services moving forward. Now, under the government code, when we're forming a special district, LAFCO is the responsible agency for conducting the property tax exchange and establishing the property taxes to be transferred to the new district to be formed. Under this circumstance, we've worked with the auditor to address the affected taxes that would be transferred automatically as a successor agency. In addition, we've spoken to County of San Diego staff with their intention to move forward with property tax changes as the taxing body, as well as the legislative body for the fire protection district to fully fund the district moving forward and to provide dedicated allocations within the property taxes that currently go into the county general fund. So within the 1% property taxes, the overall goal for the county moving forward is to establish a baseline of a 5% allocation that's dedicated for fire services in the unincorporated area. Now, given that we had moved this proposal forward to your commission for approval, the property tax discussion is going to occur following the formation once the county is in the position to determine the property taxes to be allocated to the newly formed district. So following this hearing, we would have a protest hearing because the area is considered inhabited, meaning it has more than 12 registered voters, approximately 24,000 voters over the 1.6 million acres. Following the protest hearing and any terms and conditions that were adopted, we would record the proposal. The recordation would become the effective date of the fire protection district. And then moving forward from there, the county would operate again as the legislative body, as well as the local taxing authority to work out the ongoing property tax allocations at a future point. So the staff's recommendation is for approval of the proposal as submitted. We don't have any modifications recommended, and we are recommending standard terms for the proposal with the identification of the Fire Protection District as the successor agency to the divested Fire Protection and Emergency Medical Services of CSA 135. So Ed is going to provide some background on the fire protection history since we've started this in 2003 with the first fire event. And I'm also available if there are any questions.
I do have questions, but shall we, Mrs. Sprague, speak first, or?
Yeah,
Oh,
let's wait, Barry.
And I'm sorry, and just to recap, under the Environmental Quality Act, this proposal is exempt under the Class 20 exemption, where we're not establishing any new areas where services are not presently exercised and authorized. We are basically replacing the existing boundary of the Fire Authority with the newly formed FPD. CEQA has a categorical exemption for that purpose, meaning that no new services are being activated and no new territory is being served that wasn't already being served. Thank you.
Thank you. Ed?
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Ed Sprague, and they leave it up to the old guy to talk about history. So
Good to see you again.
Good to be back. Good to be back. Thank you so much for allowing me the moment just to kind of put in perspective. Can we go to slide 8 if possible? Just to kind of give you a historical background associated with this, I think we're all well aware of the fact that when a fire event occurs down here in San Diego County region, we can't ask for help. Not being facetious, can't ask for help from the west side, or not necessarily so much from the south end, right, from Mexico. And Imperial Valley doesn't have a whole lot of resources to pull from. They're very busy and lightly populated. So most of our resources come from the north. So when we break a wind event, such as Santa Ana winds, oftentimes these fire events occur north of us. So there's fires in San Bernardino, Riverside, Ventura, LA, and they start sucking resources. In fact, it's very common for us to share resources northbound. So the emphasis for CAL FIRE in San Diego County, the San Diego County Fire Chiefs Association, representing all the local fire protection districts and cities, has been historically to try to get us to the point where we can handle those events that occur within the county and get the resources up. And we've come a long way. If you go back to the Cedar Fire and the Paradise Fire, and these are some of the larger ones, but obviously the fire, if you go back to Laguna Fire as well, we've experienced these large acreage fires for many, many years. Our environment's built to burn. And this was kind of the backdrop of what we were looking at during the period of time that the agencies were, the County of San Diego and local agencies were looking at what is the next step. So go ahead and next slide, do. I came on board here recently. One of my immediate tasks was to reach out to the San Diego County Fire Chiefs Association and sit with them. And so I've been attending their meetings since about the May period of time. Also, the preliminary staff report reviewing this went out to the San Diego County Fire Chiefs about the July period of time. So I've been receiving input from them, answering questions, clarifying issues, but to kind of put in historical perspective, it's not just the big fire that we're concerned about. We're also concerned about how we service the customer in those neighborhoods, those residents of our districts. So we want to concentrate on those medical aids, surface street traffic collisions. To give you a kind of perspective, the conversation probably started well before this, but you look back in 1973, the county establishes a fire protection committee, and it starts to organize support for the CSAs back there and the volunteer organizations. Many other things were occurring, but this is just some of the snapshots out there. 97, LAFCO formally started to research this and issue some preliminary reports called the Funding of Fire Protection Services, February 1999. During that period of time, the county came out, looked at studies. We also did a macro study, a micro study, hybrid study, all kinds of studies. Real good participation by all those members involved: San Diego County Fire Chiefs Association, the San Diego County Board of Supervisors, County Fire Authority when they came on board, etc. 2004, San Diego County voters approved Proposition C, which was an effort to consolidate the backcountry agencies into one singular organization. And then 2008, LAFCO approves the proposal for CSA 135 to activate as latent powers. It was originally established, as Barry said, originally established for communication supporting the RCS. Next slide, please. So the proposal here supports the mandate of the voters demonstrated by their overwhelming approval of the Proposition C in 2004 and the desire for that. And then also the voters asked once again, did they want to see it become part of the charter, which it did, because now it's part of the law of the land in regards to the county. And CSA 135 has the opportunity, when we pull the latent powers of fire protection EMS out, to focus on and still remain the RCS financing and governing body for the very vital 800 megahertz radio communication system for the county of San Diego, which requires some additional maintenance going forward in ongoing support, but also allows the county fire chief direct access to county leadership in order to advocate. You're going to have direct access. The Board of Supervisors sits as the County Board of Supervisors sits as the Fire Protection District's Board of Supervisors or governing board, and have direct access to the chief of department, and they'll be able to have that conversation about what is the priority for our residents in our unincorporated areas of our county. And the next slide, please. So this is just represents one step, albeit one large step, but not the final step. It does allow existing city and independent fire protection districts in the county the option to annex. And I need to pause here for a second, because one of the most common concerns that was voiced by both fire protection district chief officers as well as the city chief officers was, does this represent a loss of local control? Does this represent the local agencies losing their ability to function independently as a fire protection district or as a city fire department? And the answer to that is a resounding no. During the research for this, I reached out to the Consolidated Fire Protection District of Los Angeles, better known as Los Angeles County Fire Department, which we know is a premier organization. One of the recommendations they gave us in developing this proposal was to grab the sphere of influence and make it countywide, because they said as the county fire department may grow in the future, it just makes it easier to for those lands to be annexed. We deliberately chose not to do that because it's provocative. It sends the message like we want to absorb them. Now, we want to be a good partner. Obviously, the county of San Diego wants to be a good partner, a good fire department, and the option is there. But with the sphere of influence coterminous with the current district boundaries, what we're doing is we're sending a message that if there is some desire to go forward into those areas, it will have to have a sphere of influence change. It will have several different hurdles to go through. The voters will have a voice in the area, the management of the department, the management of the city or the special district, et cetera. So what we're trying to do is establish a county fire department. Now, if you look at the third bullet point, out of the 58 counties in California, well over 40 have some kind of county fire department function, whether that's Riverside County Fire Department that functions with a contract to CAL FIRE, Ventura County Fire, LA County Fire, San Bernardino County Fire. We're kind of last on the train here, and this is a very common way of managing fire in the backcountry and the fire and EMS services. So it's not an unknown. We're not stepping into the unknown. We're stepping into the known, and we're coming up to speed. And it's a very proud moment, at least for me, that's been in the fire service for over 3 decades. But it also sets the stage for us to revisit the macro and the micro reports and get a chance to look at the County Fire Protection District in its current, its future form, if it gets approved by the commission today and goes forward, and look at where we're going as a county, hand in hand with local agencies for the next 20 years and see what we're doing. So that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Ed and Robert. Chair, so that's the bulk of the staff presentation. I know that there are going to be some questions from the commissioners. I was hoping, though, Chair, we could open up the hearing now and check in with County Fire Chief Tony Meacham. I know Tony has a tight schedule this morning, but wanted to address the commission if that would be okay.
Certainly. I'd just like to make one correction. On the first slide, it said 1973. The county formed this fire committee. It was 1993. I think that's just a typo there, but anyway.
Copy that.
Chief?
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm joined this morning with Herman Reddick. We just wanted to take a minute and thank the LAFCO staff for all their cooperation and incredibly hard work getting us to where we're at today. This has been a long road coming, as I think you've seen in the staff report. We're excited to move forward as a fire protection district. There is two issues I'd like to specifically comment on. The first one is the property tax exchange. As we researched the requirements of the property tax exchange, it was not required to be done as a part of this application since the current territory was not changing. Therefore, the property tax exchange will be an internal discussion between the department head, Herman, and myself, and the auditor controller about whether the county wishes to use general purpose revenue or property tax to fund the services of the fire district. So it's really an internal county funding. The second is I've met with a lot of other fire chiefs, certainly heard that the concerns about, kind of how quickly the fire authority has grown. Therefore, we wanted to move forward with the current coterminous boundaries of CSA 135, or the fire authority, not CSA 135, as the boundaries of the district, and our sphere does not extend into any other agency. Therefore, any additional adds to the fire protection district would have to go through the LAFCO process. And Herman and I will remain on the line, Chair, for any questions from the commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate it. Any questions by commissioners before we go to the public speakers? If there are
Yes.
any.
Yes.
Barry?
Yes, I do. Just one question for Ed, and then one couple questions for Robert. Ed, so I take it by what you're saying there is that since there are over 40 counties that have this designed this way, that we're really running behind the curve here.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's true. I'm not implying that it necessarily damaged our ability to provide the services to the back country and the residents that live there, but it is something that has been out there for many years and the concern of local chiefs.
And then Robert, so I understand what a lot of work you guys put into this. So thank you to everybody that was involved with this. It's amazing. And Robert, my concern is the protections for our special districts, that the spheres of influence don't impede, don't get in the way of their sphere of influence. That if it does say on page 5 that they have the ability to directly annex incorporated lands. So again, from a special district perspective, I just want to make sure that their spheres of influence are not being impinged on, or that the San Diego County Water Fire Authority will be able to annex with and somehow challenge the sphere of influence of our special districts, special fire districts.
Well,
Did you answer that? Did you address that, Robert?
Sure, absolutely. I think a key issue to keep in mind is that the sphere for the new fire protection district would be exactly the same as the current sphere for the fire authority. The implication on the coterminous sphere is that every proposal individually to expand that fire protection district boundary would then have to be accompanied by written determinations and a sphere approval by the commission. It also involves a public hearing notification that isn't an atypical annexation. We had one issue with the sphere overlap with an adjacent district, which was North County Fire Protection District, and we've actually worked that out through the MSR and the sphere update for CSA 135. That was the only sphere that was brought, or part of this of the fire authority sphere, that was addressed to us as an issue to be looked at, and we had corrected it to the satisfaction of North County Fire. The other areas were unserved islands that we had annexed to the fire authority and the other adjacent agencies, but those spheres were then readjusted to match up with those jurisdictional changes. So right now we have no conflicts with any of the adjacent agency spheres, and the coterminous sphere again makes it a project by project discussion in terms of any expansion of that boundary.
So I guess my concern then is, Robert, is there ample mechanisms involved to help protect the spheres of influence of our special districts for fire?
Yes, absolutely. Any type of sphere change on a broad-based level like that would require a full municipal service review and full approval by the commission to make that sphere change. And that would always be couched in the understanding of the effects on the adjacent agencies and the other governance agencies in the area. So we would be taking input. And just as my own personal perspective, it's hard to get approval when everyone agrees. When you have fundamental disagreements between agencies over where service areas should lie, that's going to fall back on a lot of discussion and evaluation before it would get to the commission. So any viable proposal that would come forward to change that would be usually done on mutual consent after a lot of study. So I can assure you that the coterminous spheres with the agencies would provide the highest level of evaluation and scrutiny for any changes to those boundaries.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you.
Mary, you had a question?
Yes, I did. So it's very much along the lines of what the commissioner just expressed, except I think in very basic terms is I wanted to know exactly, what the fear was of local control and whether or not we were impinging on any special district at the time. And so I kind of heard a really long answer that there are protections or there's a method for public input and hearings relative to any potential expansion, if there would be, of the fire district. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair, this is Andy. First of all, compliments to Keen and your staff. As Barry pointed out, it's an outstanding study. This has been a long-term.
Really impressive, yeah.
And if it wasn't for Supervisor Jacob and Bill Horn, we wouldn't be where we are in terms of this whole thing, especially as it relates to the funding. And so I think it's fitting that in the latter part of Supervisor Jacob's term, it should be going out with this as a kind of a prize to take with her because it was monumental effort. And I have a question for you, Ed. Good morning, by the way.
Morning, sir.
I'm looking at the budget and what I see is the same budget projected over and over again. I'm sure that was done for a purpose, but why was that set up that way?
I'll have to defer over to Mr. Robert on that one.
Well, I can only tell you what we received from the county as far as the plan for services. What we had requested for the plan for services is a 5-year estimated budget for the new formed agency. So those fixed costs, I think, are more relative to the existing agreements with CAL FIRE in terms of what they're expecting to provide. And then the revenue projections were to offset those expected expenditures and to show that the district would be sustainable financially through the county. But beyond that, I think it remains to be seen what the county is going to do in terms of fixed allocations moving forward.
So I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, no, that was my question in that, is CAL FIRE then anticipating keeping, basically the personnel as is static for the next 5 years with no increase in salary or benefits?
Chair, if I could respond to those questions, and they're good questions. This proposal is about fitting County Fire Authority into a new governance vehicle. All the existing service levels that exist today are not being changed. This is about a governance model change. So it is appropriate in our mind that the budget does reflect exactly what the baseline scenario is, because we wanted to make clear that this is a governance reorganization. It's not an expansion of the footprint of County Fire Authority in any way. It's simply putting them in a governance vehicle that makes sense to the LAFCO process. And in particular, this idea that County Fire Authority has grown out of the CSA model. The CSA model is intended to just be an organizer and funder of a particular service, not a delivery agent. And so by moving them into a fire protection district, it syncs more with the expectation that the fire authority has become a brick and mortar operation through its contract with CAL FIRE. But it's an apples to apples transition in terms of boots on the ground.
Okay, my question wasn't regarding whether it was an expansion or not. It had to do with the financial viability of the new agency. And so I see that there's going to be an MSR follow on here. So I presume that in putting the budget together as follow on from this approval, that they'll be working on some numbers so that they know that they're viable, or that making plans for additional revenue if necessary.
Certainly.
If I could
but it's
comment,
also,
I'll just make a comment on that if I could, Keenan, and weigh in. Just adding to the history of this, and Andy was an integral part of it. He chaired many of those meetings way back when we got started. And I would kind of look at it as a baby that was born many, many years ago, and it's grown. We had a lot of growing pains going through adolescence, and we're finally today, which is a really big deal. It's like the fire authority has become an adult with being its own fire protection district. I find some of the questions, discussions very interesting. And I was kind of smiling as I was listening, because early discussions, when we went through the macro and the micro reports that LAFCO did, very extensive information. I particularly, in Horn too, because we're the two county recs, really got hammered on by the fire chiefs and all the other districts saying, county needs to fund this. You need to put $25 million a year into this. And why aren't you doing this? And why aren't you stepping up to the plate? And so from there, in that discussion to where we are now, and the county's put we're over 50 million annually in it. And that number has been going up. And in terms of how the county is doing this, is we have contracted with CAL FIRE. Of course, costs are going to go up. Labor costs go up in the future, all those costs. The county has not cut back over the years. And I think you can base the future, unlike the stock market, but base the future of this of what has occurred. And it was somewhat historic to get this in the county charter. Working with a rural fire protection district, particularly Pine Valley, which wanted to be a part, that board was very, very concerned. County was going to get out of the fire business. Then what do we do? And I basically sat down with them and I shared with them, hey, you only have a contract with the county now. And like in the early 70s, the county terminated the contract with CAL FIRE for the entire unincorporated area, and that could happen again. Now that it's in the charter, it's a part of county government, and it will be funded as a priority along with other services. No one knows what the future is going to bring, but I can only tell you, as I said, historically, the amount of money that's gone into the county fire authority has only increased over the years. Tony certainly can speak to that. The chief has been incredible in putting together a business plan, the 5-year plan, what we need for capital expenses, converting existing fire stations, sleeping quarters, new fire stations where we need them, paramedic service. I mean, it is a full funded, fully staffed fire department, both equipped from the air and on the ground now, which we're a real partner. The fears that have been expressed, I understand that, what Mary and Barry have expressed in that. But believe me, this 1.6 million acres that we're talking about here, now becoming its own fire district, a dependent district, was actually the unserved and underserved areas of the county. And I can't speak to the future, what's going to happen. None of us can. But I can tell you that's enough to handle from a county standpoint, and it's enough to fund into the future. And there'd be absolutely no interest in moving and taking in more territory unless somebody wanted to. And maybe there's some functional consolidations that could take place. And I know even with Lakeside, there's been some services that are provided functionally, like the permitting, the inspections and that kind of thing. And there may be other things that some of the fire districts find, hey, this is not cost effective for me to do. And hey, you want to do this, fine. I mean, but that could be done among fire districts right now, those functional agreements, those functional consolidations, which don't go through LAFCO. But for the county to take on more than 1.6 million acres, forget it. We got enough on our hands. We still have improvements to make. And as we still know, most of those big fires start in our backcountry area. So to me, this is a landmark day. And I really appreciate the support of the commissioners, particularly Andy Vanderlyn. There was another Andy Menchek on the board at that time. And boy, Vanderlyn was really nice. Menchek was really, he along with some other, they were really hammering on the county to step up. Well, the fact is, county has stepped up, and that's why we're here today. And Keen, I want to thank you and Robert and Ed for the report and the staffing, and we've come a long way on this. This is a big deal. So I don't know if it's appropriate for a motion or we need a public hearing first, or.
I have one other question.
Okay, Joe?
And it's probably either, I don't know who can answer it, but we're basically splitting CSA 135. And I know there's 10 cities that are in the CSA 135 for the communications. I guess where I want to go is that I know the cities pay a fair share for that service. And I want to be sure that they aren't going to be picking up, an extra dollars with this divestiture.
Well, I could let the staff, I don't see this 135 being split. All we're doing is we're like taking that part of 135 out, becoming a separate district. The regional communication system will still be 135, which will be the entire region. And we're working right now as a region to improve that. Now, I'm keen, Robert, you can verify what I just said, but that's my understanding. We're not splitting anything.
I don't think staff could have said it better, Chair.
Well, I don't mean splitting it per se, but you've got a pot of money for CSA 135 that takes care of communications and fire. And as I understand it, there's going to be an internal discussion relevant to property tax and how much of that property tax goes to the new fire department versus how much is staying for CSA 135 for the communications.
Well, through the chair, Commissioner McKenzie, so the CSA 135 regional communication function actually operates like an enterprise fund. It doesn't get any property tax. It bills for its proportional share of the cost of this 800 megahertz system. So it is much like a water or sewer district.
Okay.
It bills as it collects.
Okay.
Separate. Do we have public speakers?
Tammy, did we have any registered speakers for this hearing item?
Only, Madam Chair, only Tony Meacham, and he spoke.
Okay, I'll put a motion on the floor to approve staff recommendation on this, and thanks again for all the work.
I'll second.
And before we do the roll call, could we ask Erica, did we receive any emails from the public in the course of the item being discussed?
No public comment received for
Thank
the
you, Chair.
emails.
We're good to go.
Okay. Call for the vote.
Commissioner Desmond?
Aye, and congratulations, Diane. I know you put a lot of hard work and effort into this, and well-deserved. Thank you.
Commissioner Wells?
Was that Willis or Wells?
Wells.
Yes.
Commissioner Salas? Commissioner Salas?
She's on mute, I think. Mary, are you on mute?
We
She
may
might
be
be on
having a
mute.
I'll come
problem
back.
with her feed. We'll come back.
Commissioner Willis?
Aye.
I said
Commissioner
yes.
McKenzie?
No. Did you hear me?
Yes. Are you,
Yes. My vote is yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Commissioner Kersey?
Great work, everybody. Happy to vote yes.
Commissioner Jacob?
Yes.
Commissioner Vanderlin?
Yes.
8 in favor, 0 opposed. The motion passes.
Thank you.
If I may.
Move on to item, Andy, I'm sorry.
Sure, yes. Ed, what was the tone of the fire chief's discussion about the formation?
Question to me, sir?
Yeah, what was the tone of the fire chief's discussion you had regarding the new fire district?
Again, the concerns that were raised by the fire chiefs were essentially the same that were raised today during this meeting. Was what does it mean to us? Does it mean that we're going to lose independent control, being an independent fire district or a city? What are the intentions? There's always that kind of suspicion that you're going to be eaten by the Borg. And I came back to them on multiple occasions, and I had Tony in there with me on a couple times, and said, that's not the intent. The sphere of influence is coterminous with the current boundaries, and as the chair Jacob said, when you're talking about 1.5 million acres plus, the county has its hands full as it is. Let's concentrate on making the county fire authority what it should be and where it's going, as opposed to expanding into other areas.
So you felt reasonable support for the go-ahead?
Absolutely, absolutely. The meeting, I had the last meeting October 1st, Thursday, October 1st, with the full San Diego County Fire Chiefs Association board and membership, and clarified a couple questions and addressed all the issues, and told them it was going to be here Monday morning the 5th, and please chime in, either get a hold of me, drop an email, or participate in the meeting. And you could see by the fact that I think all concerns have been addressed at their level, and they're good to go, and they chose to step out.
Thank you. And Robert, I guess this is the question for you. Someone said that there was one change in the SORI in North County. Was that piece in Duluth?
Yeah, we work with Steve Abbott at North County Fire to correct the sphere as part of the sphere update in MSR for CSA 135. There was an overlap of the sphere into North County Fire. I think it was based on some previous discussions. So we realigned the sphere to be coterminous with the agency boundaries, and that satisfied North County's fire, satisfied their concerns.
Okay, then. So they are covered then.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to say one more comment. Andy Vanderleen, since he chaired many of these meetings, which were not easy meetings to chair because there was some contentiousness, shall we say, during this whole process over the years. But Andy, you were the steady hand. You were the voice of reason and really cut through and made a huge, huge difference in your leadership as chair of the LAFCO Commission as we move forward. And I want to personally, publicly thank you for that. A lot of good work done.
Thank you.
I would
It's a
only
pleasure.
add to what Ed said. The answer to the question is, what does this mean to the other fire districts, including the city fire departments in the region? It means that the county is an equal partner in fighting a major fire event and also in any kind of an emergency. And mutual aid, as we know, is very important. Having that partnership to try to get those fires out fast while they're small is extremely important. And even when we have to fight the big ones, and we've seen a couple of incidents of that. So I want to thank the commissioners for your support of this. It's a big deal. We'll move on to other public hearing items. The next one is item B.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to ask Robert to introduce the item and provide the staff presentation. Robert.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commission members, this proposal is a reorganization involving concurrent annexations to the Rincon Del Diablo Municipal Water District and their wholesale water providers, the San Diego County Water Authority, the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. If we can show the PowerPoint, Duke. This proposal involves one parcel. It's in the southwest unincorporated area, southwest of Escondido, in between Escondido and the city of San Diego. The gray area to the right is where the city of San Diego's border is located. The darker area towards the left is the footprint of the city of Escondido. Everywhere else is unincorporated. The crosshatched area is the area that's currently within Rincon del Diablo MWD. The small white areas between the city of San Diego and the crosshatched areas are actually unserved territory that are not in the water authority or in a fire protection district. So this property is zoned residential under the county general plan. The owners of the property applied for and received approval for a major use permit to construct a religious facility on the site involving a 17,000 square foot temple, a 5-unit housing facility for religious personnel, and a small accessory barn area for livestock. This area is not in the water authority, so as it was going through its service availability through the county approvals, it came up with the need for it to annex to Rincon. This is a kind of complicated area in terms of service. This area is technically served by the city of Escondido through Rincon del Diablo into this area, but the area was nowhere near the Escondido border and not in the Escondido sphere. I'm sorry, not contiguous enough to be annexed. Also, to get services from Rincon under the administrative code with the water authority, annexations to special district member agencies require conditional approvals from the water authority as well as the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. So in addition to the major use permit for the religious facility and residential zoning, applicant had to get conditional approvals from the water authority and Met before they came back for the LAFCO actions. Met and CWA have both provided conditional approvals for annexation of this property. Rincon has indicated that it can provide service and is willing to annex. So the proposal involves an annexation and concurrent sphere amendments to include the property in Rincon del Diablo, the County Water Authority, and Met. The property will be served septic systems for wastewater services. That's not proposed to change. What we did notice is part of this proposal, Rincon del Diablo contracts fire protection services as an activated power with the city of Escondido in an area that's smaller than their agency called Improvement District E. The area surrounding this annexation area is in Improvement District E. This property is not in a fire protection provider. So as part of the annexation to the MWD for water services, we're recommending a modification to include an expansion of that improvement district to establish fire protection services within IDE of Rincon, consistent with the other territory that's currently within Rincon and receiving fire services through Escondido. We have another modification that we're requesting approval for. It's a small map and I apologize, but there's a roadway that actually runs right through the left side of the parcel. It's a right of way on paper, but it's not part of the assessed area of the parcel itself. So rather than creating a corridor of an island of territory, we're recommending that your commission modify the proposal area to include that right of way, as well as the adjacent right of way to San Pasqual Valley Road or SR 78. This basically is just an extension of where the roadways are currently within Rincon and would avoid any islands of unserved area following the annexation. So the recommendation for staff is to approve the annexation to Rincon, the Water Authority, and Met to modify the proposal to include an expansion of Improvement District E to establish fire services, and also a modification of the geographic area to include the adjacent right-of-ways, approximately 3.8 acres. The County of San Diego did adopt a mitigated negative declaration for the religious facility, which contemplated the annexation. We are recommending your commission concur with their findings and mitigations for the project as part of the approvals for the sphere amendments and for the annexation. And to correct myself, the SPEAR amendments would be exempt as planning activities. The annexations would be subject to the mitigated negative declaration as a responsible agency under CEQA. So your staff is recommending approval with the modifications as listed. And we have 100% consent from the landowner and consent from all of the agencies and boards affected. And that
Thank you.
concludes my presentation.
Any questions by commissioners?
Oh, Aaron, this is you, right? This is your Rincon?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah,
So this is
the property owner's gone through quite a bit as described and had to get approval by quite a few different agencies and different loopholes. And it's nice to see it coming to fruition.
Great. So this is a very good thing.
Yeah.
Good. I make a motion that we move forward with the proposals.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, there's a
And,
motion and a second to approve the staff recommendation. Do we have speakers on this item?
Thank you, Chair. As in opening the public hearing, if we could check in first with Tammy, if there's any registered speakers, and then Erica, if there are any email comments that you've received.
No registered speakers received, Executive Officer.
Thank you. Then if there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote.
And no live email comments were received either.
Thank you. We're good to go.
Thank you.
Commissioner Vanderlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Jacob,
Yes.
Commissioner Kersey,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yeah.
Commissioner Willis,
Aye.
Commissioner Salas,
Aye.
Commissioner Wells,
Yes.
Commissioner Desmond,
Yes.
8 in favor, 0 opposed. The motion passes.
Thank you. We'll move right along to item 6C, which is the proposed update to the agriculture and open space lands policy. It is an action item. Keen?
Thank you, Chair. And I will be brief because this item is going to look very familiar to all of the commissioners. This is our proposed update to the LAFCO agricultural and open space lands policy, a policy that certainly is central to this commission's task under statute to be both in the business of promoting and facilitating orderly urban growth, but at the same time preventing the premature conversion of agricultural and open space resources. And that concept of premature certainly speaks to the commission's discretion, i.e. you choose what is premature versus orderly. And so the update that you have before you came first in draft form back in August. The commission gave discussion and feedback at that time, and then we circulated a notice of review and comment out to the general public. No comments were received. We did also do a little additional vetting with our stakeholders, Chair, and that included talking to the County of San Diego and confirming that what is before you today, Commission, would be consistent with the county's own agricultural promotion program. And we have a letter to that effect as part of the agenda packet. And just for the benefit of being clear for the public's benefit, if you could put up our second slide for this item. The underlying intent here, Commission, as we've discussed, is simply to modernize the policy. The policy right now is in 1998 form. The world has certainly changed since 1998. LAFCO has changed since 1998. So as our attempt to modernize the policy, and go ahead to the second slide, we have a number of headlining amendments. They are summarized on the screen before you. And again, they are exactly as they were and discussed back in August. Staff is certainly ready and able to go into detail as the chair sees fit. But it is our recommendation after having gone through this rather lengthy process that we move forward today as part of this notice public hearing with an approval, and that the commission set the effective date to today. And again, with the invitation to go into detail, Chair, I will turn it back to you for the public hearing.
Thank you. Do we have any speakers?
Madam Chair, no registered speakers for this item.
Thank you. I'll go to the commission. Any commissioners have questions, comments, a
Uh,
motion?
Keen, is this restricting use of agricultural land? I'm sorry, I'm just trying to clarify.
Oh, no, not restricting. Our stakeholders would have been calling in volume on that.
Okay.
This
Yeah,
is about
okay.
just being clear about our expectations with respect to how we view agricultural uses in the county, and really our efforts to promote those agricultural uses, not through regulation, but through encouragement.
Okay.
And I just want to
Hey,
say,
Good job, staff.
Jim?
I just want to say thank you very much. I know that a lot of work and effort went into this, and thanks for reaching out to all the different entities, including the Farm Bureau, and getting their buy-in on this one. So if there hasn't been a motion, I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, there's a motion by Commissioner
Sec-
Dillon. Is there a second?
Second,
Thank you,
Commissioner
Barry.
Willis.
Okay,
And if we could check in with Erica to see if any comments were received on the fly.
No comments were received.
We're good to go.
thank you,
Chair.
Erica. Okay, call for the vote, please.
Commissioner Desmond,
Aye.
Commissioner Wells,
Yes.
Commissioner Salas,
Yes.
Commissioner Willis,
Aye.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Kersey,
Aye.
Commissioner Jacob,
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderland.
Yes.
8 in favor, 0 opposed. The motion passes.
Thank you. Item 7A, an ad hoc committee update.
Thank you, Chair. So I will cover this item. And again, it's the commission's scheduled check-in on the work and activities of your 10-member ad hoc committee that you formed a few months back to help staff in the administrative reviews of these two separate but certainly related proposals filed by Fallbrook Public Utility District and Rainbow Municipal Water District to, among other things, leave the San Diego County Water Authority. And I don't think we have a slide for this, Stu, so we can do away with the PowerPoint. And of course, the underlining threshold that the commission set in creating that committee was for staff to come back and report on whether the group is being active and perhaps more importantly, constructive. And with that threshold in mind, while I certainly don't think anyone would check in on the ad hoc committee and think there's a kumbaya session occurring, I would offer that some progress is being made. Slow, but nevertheless progress. And we've identified and summarized the activities of late in the agenda report. And in particular, at our last meeting last month, I'm blanking on the date, the ad hoc committee did come to an agreement, near unanimous agreement, on the topics specific for LAFCO to go out into the consultant world and get some expert assistance. In particular, of those topics, that includes perhaps the biggest one that I know this commission will spend some time on when the time is right. And that is what, if any, is an appropriate departure fee for Fallbrook and or Rainbow to leave the water authority. Again, it could be 0, but it could be multiple zeros. The goal is for the ad hoc committee and staff to work with our outside consultant in quantifying that number for the commission. The ad hoc committee also identified a unique process to select the consultants. I think we're just about done with what we're calling the striking system. And probably within the next few weeks, we'll end up having consultants, one or more, in place. And my guess is we'll be in a position, not in November, but in December, to come back to the commission with an additional update. So that's, the progress as of today. And again, I would characterize it as good progress. I know that we have one letter of correspondence received on this item that we forwarded out to the commission late Friday from Rainbow Municipal Water District. I know we have a speaker registered from Rainbow also, and I believe we also have a speaker from the County Water Authority who'd like to address the commission. This is an opportunity, commission, if there are any questions or just input that you'd like to provide to staff as we continue with the ad hoc committee, this is the time. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Keen. Any questions before we go to the speakers?
Madam Chair,
Joe?
I just have two questions. One, and I think we discussed it at the last meeting, but I don't remember what the answer was. Does this ad hoc committee have minutes?
Tammy, are we, it's a good question that I know you did ask me before, and for whatever reason, I remember the question. I don't remember following up, so I apologize. Tammy, are we doing minutes for the ad hoc committee?
Yes, we are, Executive Officer.
So we can,
Make those available to the commission?
Yes.
Yes, I would like a copy also, please.
so we will put those minutes on the website. And also for those who love the details, we video record the meetings as well. And those I know are up on the website too, but we will get those minutes up. Thank you, Commissioner McKenzie.
Okay, and then my second question is relevant to the consultants. I kind of read how they were going to be picked, but how was the initial list and how many, is the ad hoc committee, trying to go through and come up with their one or two?
So LAFCO staff with Commission Counsel's assistance came up with the pool of applicants for the ad hoc to look at, and the ad hoc committee agreed that the 4 subject agencies, Water Authority, Rainbow, Fallbrook, and Eastern, would have the ability to vet and ultimately select the consultants through a rather ingenious striking system that your Commission Counsel came up with that surprisingly all sides agreed to. It was a good win for us.
I have a question.
Eric?
Keen, since the departure fee is probably the biggest issue, are you using consultants on this?
Yes, so that's where we are right now. We're going through the process with the subject agencies of finalizing one or more consultants. We know we have one consultant, at least for 2 topics that have been identified. We're finishing the process to determine whether that one consultant will cover the 3rd topic or we'll have a second consultant. But we're right in the middle of that right now.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? We'll move on to the speakers then.
Madam Chair, I have Hayden Hamilton and Gary Croucher.
Okay.
Mr. Hamilton, why don't you?
Okay. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Hayden Hamilton. I serve as the Vice President of the Rainbow Municipal Water Board District Board of Directors. Last week, I sent a letter to you in reference to comments read into the record of the August 3rd, 2020 LAFCO meeting on behalf of Gary Croucher, Chair of the San Diego County Water Authority. You should have this letter in your packet of materials, so I won't recite the information in the interest of time. I want the Commission to know that the applications filed by Rainbow and Fallbrook PUD to detach from the San Diego County Water Authority were made in accordance with the rights granted our agencies under state law. We seek only to do what we can to preserve the rural character of our communities and provide relief to the only economic engine in our region, agriculture. Spiraling imported water costs from the Water Authority has seriously and negatively impacted our community and our farmers. Due to our unique location, our agencies alone have the capacity to receive wholesale water service from someone other than the Water Authority. For nearly 18 months now, both our agencies have tried to engage with the Water Authority to have meaningful discussions so we can resolve any difference on how to interpret state law. Regrettably, the Water Authority at each turn has refused to engage and responded with lawyers, procedural delays, and in our opinion, a casual disregard for this commission. However, Mr. Croucher crossed the line when he made the ludicrous assertion that somehow our agencies are troubled. Nothing could be further from the truth. Rainbow has received the highest accreditation a special district can get, the District of Distinction recognition by the Special Districts Leadership Foundation. This accreditation has been awarded to only about 1% of special districts statewide, and only 7 districts in San Diego County have achieved this recognition. Normally, excuse me, normally we would have let these sorts of comments go unanswered. But in this situation, where the leader of the Water Authority, Mr. Croucher, attempted to publicly smear our reputation, I felt compelled to publicly refute his baseless comments here today. As our general manager has told this commission on several occasions, it is our sincere desire to resolve any disputes with the Water Authority before our applications come before the commission for a consideration. We stand ready and willing to engage in the process, but unfortunately, the Water Authority appears committed to the unproductive path they've been on for so long. We regret this and look forward to meaningful discussions as the processing of the applications continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker, please.
Mr. Croucher, please go ahead.
Sure, this is Gary Croucher. Good morning, Chair Jacob, Mr. Simons, and LAFCO staff members of the commission. I'm Gary Croucher, and in addition to representing Otay Water District on the advisory committee, I just became, as of October 1st, the chairman of the County Water Authority, and I speak to you in that capacity. I asked to speak so I could talk to you directly about the comments made at my comments made at the commissioners meeting on August 3rd, and then the comments just made by Mr. Hamilton. I want to make one thing very clear. Nothing is personal about this for me, the Water Authority staff, or the Water Authority Board of Directors. We hold no animosity for these agencies, their managers, or their board members. To the contrary, it's my hope that when we're all done with this, both agencies can remain part of the Water Authority and the San Diego County region. As to the merits of my prior comments, I think the commissioners were able to read it. It sounds like it was supplied to you again today, but maybe I should have said had rather than has within problems. But I think it's, I still stand by the comments within that as it was a simple request that the commissioners take a look at the 2014 and 2015 deal report from staff that was done on the consolidation related to these two agencies. And the reason I ask for that is because there's several things within the report that was done by staff. And not only was the LAFCO staff, Mike Ott, attacked or criticized in those comments, the report itself was criticized, and there's just some good information that I think the commissioners should be aware of. There's the report on December 19th, 2014, just that one document alone, I think if the commissioners take a look at it, it would be helpful for them just to understand the process with these two agencies. The only other point I'd like to address is the continuing notion that the Water Authority has refused to meet with Rainbow or Fallbrook to cut some type of deal with them. All I can say is I wish it was that easy. Some of you know that I just retired from CAL FIRE as a division chief, assistant chief for CAL FIRE San Diego. I'm also past chair of the Special Districts Advisory Committee to LAFCO, also the past chair of the East County Fire District's rep to County EMS, and I was chairman of the San Diego County Fire Chiefs Equipment Committee, and I'm currently the chair and president at Otay Water District. I've been involved and participated in both state and homeland security programs through YOASI and SHISCAP, and I have a long history of successfully working on complex issues and personalities in dispute resolution. I think within that process, we have 24 member agencies right now with the Water Authority, including Fallbrook and Rainbow. We can negotiate while holding on difference of opinions and belief, but we cannot negotiate when basic facts remain in dispute. Some of those facts are Fallbrook and Rainbow claims the water supply will be just as reliable with Eastern as it is with the Water Authority. We as the Water Authority disagree with that. Fallbrook and Rainbow claim that the ratepayers will save 25% of what they pay now for water. We also disagree with that. Fallbrook and Rainbow claim that their water supply will be the same with Eastern as it is with the Water Authority. We disagree with that. Fallbrook and Rainbow also claim that the shift to Eastern will not impact the California Bay Delta. We disagree. I note that within the September 18th email or letter sent to the commission by the Delta Watermaster stated several comments in regards to LAFCO. Approving the pending proposal would be an unfortunate instance of backsliding from supply diversity, security, and apparently in exchange for short-term relief from the costs associated with San Diego County Water Authority's more resilient supply. Needless to say, we've got a lot of work to do. The Water Authority is committed to that. You hear some disagreements on that, but I can tell you, I just took over as chair October 1st. I look forward to working with the commission, and I believe that the 186-page submittal that we as the Water Authority supplied to the commission will be helpful identifying just how complex this is. But I am committed. I do have a meeting coming up with Fallbrook, with their general manager and their board president next week. So we are going to move forward with meeting with the different agencies as we believe we've done in the past. But the key is we need people to agree on the basics. And like I said, we're here to and committed to trying to resolve this in a positive way. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers?
None, Madam Chair.
Erica, any emails?
No live email comments.
So Chair, this is for any input as the commission sees fit. And again, absent that, probably our next update would be in December.
Okay. Any other comments by commissioners? If not, we'll move on to item 7B. And are we taking this up after our closed session?
Madam Chair, you have the option of either doing it now, deciding you don't need a closed session. That has been done in the past. That's the only reason we set it up this way. It's more common to take it up after closed session on the items. And if you want to proceed that way, we would need a motion to table this until after closed session. But that's just a housekeeping matter that you can accomplish right now.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Oh, I didn't know we were entertaining a motion. I make a motion, we go to closed session first, then come out and vote on the other side.
Okay, Barry, I don't think we need a motion for that. We'll go into closed
Okay.
session and then we'll come out and then make a decision on this. Okay, I think that finishes our public agenda. And now I think it'd be appropriate.
Tom Kennedy, I think, had wanted our attention.
I was just saying bye-bye. Good to see you all.
Okay.
Bye, Tom.
Sorry, madam.
Bye, Tom.
Thanks, Andy. Any other comments before we go into closed session?
I just do have a couple that I just want to make for the record. That once we will have a report out of closed session. So in addition to taking up item 7B after closed session, there will also be a public report out of closed session. And also just so that the record is clear, the executive officer will not be present in closed session for closed session item 10B. That's the discussion of compensation. He will not be present for that. I just wanted the public to be aware of that.
Okay. So we have to leave this meeting and then log on again for closed session?
Hi, Chair. I will probably put everyone in the waiting room and only have the commissioners for the closed session. So if you would like to take a minute or two break while I set that up.
Okay, so we just stay on. We don't have to log off and then log on again.
Yes.
Good, thank you.
Everyone
That
who
makes
should
it
be in closed session can just stay on.
okay. Well, we will wait. Put us in the waiting room or not. Whoever's supposed to be in the waiting room, put them